Hello, it's Pro, and welcome to my Lost Ark tips and tricks video. This is kind of targeted more towards beginner players, but some of these you may not know even as a more advanced player. But these are just things that I thought were very nice to know and were helpful when I first picked up the game and started playing. Alright, so the first one is going to be regarding these storage keeps that you will see around many different towns. So for example, in this village, there is a storage keep right here. And the icon on the map is always going to be sort of like this chest. Alright, I zoomed in on the map as much as I could, but right here in the top right corner, you can see this little chest icon. And that is where there's going to be a storage keep. And this storage keeper is like a universal storage. So right here, this personal storage, you get all of this space, and every single town where there's a storage keeper, you will be able to store things here, and you can just, put whatever inside. And there's a bunch of extra slots that you can purchase, but right now you probably don't need that if you're this early in the game, because you get a lot of slots to start. You get 180 slots to start, and then you even get like a gear skin storage here as well. Roster storage is kind of like a character storage, or sorry, more like a account storage. So any character that you have on your account can access the same roster storage, so you can transfer items between your characters using the roster storage, and you only start off with 24 slots. But this is so you can transfer items to different characters, and then you have the actual personal character storage here, and this one's the account storage. Yeah, that's pretty much everything for the storages, and it's really useful, so make sure to take advantage of it. You can just store all kinds of things in here, and just make your inventory very clean. Another thing to note about these personal storages is that when you have a pet, you can crystalline aura your pet, which is like kind of a temporary paid buff, and it will allow you to access your storage through your pet. So this is the one. I don't know if this is really a spoiler, but I'm really trying to avoid spoilers, but this is a pet that I believe everybody gets through a quest. It's like a free white bunny, and this is from having the early access. And right here where it says pet functions, if you were to activate this, you could activate a crystalline aura for your pet. And one of the benefits is remote storage, which pretty much allows you to access your storage wherever you are, because you can use your pet for it. But yeah, that's pretty much everything for the storage, so let's go ahead and go on to the next one. One big thing that I always have when I pick up a new MMO is what do I do with old items? Am I supposed to sell them to vendors for money, or am I supposed to scrap them down for crafting materials? The answer for Lost Ark is to use the dismantling feature. So here, if you want, you can use these options and just quickly, it'll sift through your inventory depending on what you select here and delete everything based on the conditions that you set. But I like to just throw them in here, and then you just hit dismantle. Boom, and then you can get these different types of items. Sometimes you actually get useful things. A lot of the times it's probably just going to be this item right here, broken equipment powder, and then sometimes you get useful equipment pieces. And then later you can sell these for silver. It's just best to always scrap down your gear while you're leveling, any gear that you don't think you'll be using. I think later on that changes a little bit once you start approaching higher levels and you want to actually keep certain pieces of gear, but just in the early leveling phases, you can scrap down anything you don't need. Alright, the next thing, this is something that I noticed a lot while watching some content, was a lot of people always have their map up in the corner. By default, the map, I believe, is dead center. And it's hard to play with the map in the center like this, but you can actually move it and then keep the map active by using middle mouse click as the default setting. You can click and drag, and I just like to put it in my top left corner, but you can move it to wherever you'd like, and then you can just leave it open while you're playing. And you can always hit tab again to close it and tab again to reopen it, and it'll remember the position that you left it at. So that's always kind of a neat little trick. The next thing that I want to talk about is potions. So in this game, you get a lot of potions while leveling, but there's actually two types of potions. You have your standard recover HP over time healing potions. Like this one right here, you get 600 HP for 8 seconds, so it'll recover slowly over 8 seconds. This one, you know, you get 768 HP over 8 seconds. This one is 968 HP over 8 seconds, and they're all called healing potion. And then we have this one, which is called a HP potion. An HP potion recovers a percentage of HP, and it's instant. So as soon as I use this HP potion, it'll give me 30% of my max HP instantly. You know, I'm actually not sure if it's 30% of my max HP or if it's 30% of missing HP. But either way, it's like an instant restore, and these are supposed to be saved for later in the game, so not really used while you're leveling. So I would hold off on using these potions. I usually just throw them in my storage. And I strictly use these regular healing over time potions. And you also don't really want to be using that many of these other items as well. Like this sort of thing, I kind of just throw in my storage. There's also a lot of different equipments and like bombs and stuff. Let me show you guys. Like these items, like these ones right here, like destruction bombs, like usually you want to save these for more towards end game or once you're higher level, and they'll have like a better purpose. But yeah. On to the next tip is, if you are in a guild, you should try to open the guild tab fairly often, because every time you open it, you're gonna get a check-in reward, and this thing refreshes pretty often, I would say. I'm not sure exactly how often this resets, but usually I just open the guild tab every once in a while, and you get like a little bit of bloodstones, a little bit of reward. But maybe at least do it once a day. For like, you know, when you get your daily login, you might as well check in as well. This one is a movement tip. So I think most people are accustomed to just left clicking to move around. As you can see, I'm doing that right now. But something that actually helps me is just to hold down left click. And I feel like it allows me to maneuver and like strafe around a bit, especially in combat and like directional abilities. So like for this paladin ability, dash/, I hold it down and then I can just let it follow my mouse, which I feel like is a lot easier than if I were to do it and have to constantly click. It's just a smoother, like, you know, you can like whip around really quickly and whatnot. So that's kind of just a little tip for maneuvering. It's still doable, but I feel like it's just not as precise or as sharp of turns that you can do with just holding down left click. Next up is to actually go into the settings. Make sure to really go through each of these settings to kind of just help your gameplay, you know, kind of make things nice for you. You know, up to your preference though, of course. Like for me, I adjusted my HUD down to 80%, so that way I can just see more of the screen. I think default is 100. This is default, which to me on my monitor looks pretty big, so I put it down to 80. Turned off motion blur, even though motion blur is realistic in real life. And then in audio, there's a bunch of audio settings here. I think default is custom, but you can make it so that it prioritizes, you know, sound effects or music or, you know, whatever kind of sound mix you want. There's also some voice chat options here too. Accessibility stuff. There's some chat things here, notification requests. I think the gameplay things are pretty big as well. So I think for my character, yeah, like my character has an HP bar there, so that like while I'm like looking at the combat, I don't necessarily have to glance down at the screen to see if I'm about to die. I can just see above my character. But yeah, there's a lot of different options here that I think are useful later in the game. Like if you've done all the dungeons and you just want to instantly skip the dungeon cutscenes, like you can enable that, and you can just kind of change a lot here. And same thing with the name tags, you can change a lot. So it really can change like how the game looks, just based off of all these options here. And then of course there's also key bindings if you're using a gamepad or a mouse and keyboard. My next tip is regarding leveling. So when I was first kind of starting out, I was like, I wonder like what is the best way to level, or, you know, should I really focus on grinding mobs in an area to level? Like, is that beneficial at all? So it turns out that in Lost Ark, most of your XP will be granted from just doing quests. So questing is going to be one of like the best things that you can do just to gain experience and start progressing through your combat level. Grinding mobs in an area is not very efficient. You definitely can do it if you're having fun, like by all means. But if you're just wanting to like be most time efficient with like your gameplay and also getting XP and like kind of just progressing, then you should just focus on doing quests, because mobs will not give you much XP. Like right there is only 5 XP. So yeah, overall it is best to just do quests and get XP that way, and only kill things that are like on the way to the quest or that are in your way of completing a objective. That way you just save the most time if you're trying to be speedy with your leveling. Another thing, speaking of speed, is to try and be as quick as possible when moving around. This one's kind of like it's like not necessary, but you know, it can help you out. If you want, you know, I binded my mount to this button here, so I can always call my mount when I need to. But sometimes the travel distance doesn't necessarily need like a mount. Then I will just use like my movement abilities. Like I can dash, and then I can dash like that, and then, you know, just keep going. And sometimes, like in dungeons, I'll use that just to get around the dungeon faster. But yeah, that's just like a little small thing. I think another thing is regarding silver. Silver is fairly easy to come by, I would say. In the early stages, you can always get more of it. So I wouldn't be too afraid to actually use it. So, you know, how I mentioned speed earlier, you know, feel free to always TP around. You can just open the map using M, and let's say my next objective is all the way up there. I could just travel to this triport, although I don't have it discovered. But let's say I did have it discovered, then, you know, it'll be faster to just travel there than going on horseback all the way up to the monastery. Another thing with silver is you're gonna come around a lot of different gear merchants and just merchants in general. Like, don't be afraid to like buy items if they are better for you. So like, let's say this purple had this little blue arrow. I would probably buy it because it allows you to start getting your equipment higher at a higher stat level. But this one, I think I already bought. Yeah, this one I'm actually wearing right now. But it's 5,000 silver, which might seem like a lot, but it isn't. So I would just buy better gear whenever you can. My last tip or trick for this video is going to be regarding field bosses. So if you don't already know, each sort of like region will have a field boss. Alright, I'm just going to use the Udia one as an example here. So we'll go to Udia, and these field bosses can appear like every 30 minutes once they it's like their respawn timer. Okay, it looks like it's actually in the Salantil area. So you can like look all of this information up, and you can find out where these field bosses spawn. I might make a guide on that at some point. But this is just an example for this video. So we can track it down, we can go over here, and you know, I'm just gonna use a triport, and it looks like it spawns in this region of the map right here, in the salt plains. So it is going to be every 30-minute respawn, and a lot of times in chat you'll be able to see when the boss is up, and people will kind of like shout it out in chat like, oh, this boss is up. When you kill a field boss for the first time, it's going to drop like a first time kill chest, and it'll drop some items that might be useful. So it's always good to kill them at least once, but I think after that it may not be as useful. I don't want to really like wait around for the boss to spawn. So that's going to pretty much conclude this video. But yeah, you just kind of like watch chat, and sometimes they'll call out like which channel the boss has spawned in. They might be like Salt Giant channel 5, and then, you know, you can quickly hop into channel 5 and you're already at like the general spawn point. But yeah, that's gonna be pretty much it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know in the comment section below. Any positive or negative feedback is also much appreciated. That way I can improve. But otherwise, until next time, hopefully you found some of these tips and tricks helpful.